so much emphasis on a player's performance on the field or on the court. But really what we should be asking ourselves is, has speculation money outpaced current and potential card price upside? That's really it. Speculation money dominates the sports card hobby. And this really was supercharged over the last few years. If we go back to the pandemic, sports were shut down. So really the only sports betting style option that you had was sports cards. Goodbye, my love. And then, of course, you couple it with stimulus and a bunch of other aspects of things, and here we are. And we still have people that are in this game, and it's not as if this is anything new. I mean, people have been speculating on cards on players going way back to the 80s. I mean, people thinking that Todd Van Poppel and Jeffries and these types of guys were going to be the next superstars. Look at, on the baseball side, first Bowman prospects. That's all speculation. And so I think with something that's interesting, I think a good takeaway from this, as I've been thinking more about it, is there's a lot of talk about investing, but really most of what's happening here is speculating, not really investing. Investing has more of a connotation towards long-term hold. An investor is not a flipper. An investor is somebody that really holds things for long term. Now, I think you can do all of these things. You can kind of flip to get into longer term things, or you can just do the flipping stuff. That's a lot of fun, the short term flips. Speaking of buying and selling sports cards, check out DC Sports 87 for all your sports card consignment needs. Today's video sponsor. I have cards with them right now. I made a video recently. I am buying a Bart Starr rookie card, 1957 Topps, and an SGC4, trying to figure out how am I going to pay for this. And a lot of it is lower end slabs, $10 to $50, $10 to $75. I send them off to DC Sports 87. They handle everything, returns, sales, all of it, and it's updated in real time on their website. It just is so easy. So definitely check out DC Sports 87. Sports Card Radio is putting out a new series on this where they're kind of showing different buys and sells, different strategies, and a lot of it's involving vaults where they can move in and out, ComC being one of those where you can easily just move in and out of cards for short-term flips. Hey, that stuff is good. That stuff is fun as well. When I got back in the hobby in 2018, I started with cards, and then I ended up going over to comic books because there was kind of a fun speculation game over there where you're buying kind of key comic books thinking, okay, this might be the next villain in the next Marvel movie or DC or whatever. And there was a lot of spec books is what they call it, where you're looking at first appearances of different characters. Will this character appear in this next movie? That's not investing. That is purely speculating, but that's fun. And it's doing research to buy something with the intention that it does rise in price over time. And that is kind of a fun thing. And that helps to kind of fuel the cost of your hobby. I think a lot of people, really most people, are buying and selling. If you're on the mid end, higher end, even some on the low end, it's not easy to always use money from your job to do it. So the idea is if you're able to kind of buy something speculatively, flip those things, you can fund your hobby that way. But when you watch a lot of hobby content, whether it's IG or YouTube or podcast or whatever, a lot of it is centered around what is this player going to make the Super Bowl? Are they going to make the playoffs? What are they going to do? This sort of player performance type thing. I think the real question is, if you're looking at kind of buying into a card, hoping that it goes up, is number one, is there a collector base for this particular player or card? Maybe it's exquisite. They like exquisite cards. They're trying to complete a set. Or it's a player collector looking for this specific player. And that player doesn't have to be Michael Jordan. It can be players of all different types. But so you're looking for the end collector. But then on the other side of that, you're speculating on who is everybody going to be hot on later on. You know, and a lot of times you're buying in low on players. You're taking risk. My hobby friend Flippin' Steve, he's made it known that he's out there buying Jared Goff and Kyler Murray. These are guys that they've got upside potential. Their cards are pretty inexpensive because their seasons ended at one point or another, but they've showed promise. These are guys that have played at a high level, just not consistently. So the idea is maybe you can scoop these up a little bit on the cheaper side, and then maybe leading into the season next year, there's some hype. Maybe Arizona's got a great draft. Maybe the Lions add a few pieces in free agency. And then, of course, we do the whole thing again where we all think our team's going to win the Super Bowl. Me being the New Orleans Saints, of course the Saints are going to win the Super Bowl next year. I'm curious as to who's going to be their next quarterback. One of these quarterbacks is going to move to the Saints, and then will those prices go up on their cards for a period of time? Keep in mind, a lot of times you get kind of that price bump and then it comes back to reality. But again, that's part of this whole speculation game. The same thing happens in other areas. For comic books, it's very similar. You get kind of the spec book pop, when there's an announcement, maybe a trailer comes out, it comes back down though. That's all part of this. Oh, before I forget, shout out to the Cardboard Coaches. I'm always eager to shout out the Cardboard Coaches. I like those guys. They had a good episode this morning. Definitely check them out on the YouTube, Cardboard Coaches. Then also when I was thinking about finding that end collector, Cousins Collectibles YouTube channel podcast, they are big Eagles fans. Sorry about your Eagles guys, but I know that they collect Randall Cunningham, which if you were a kid in the 80s like I was, Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham, these guys were devastating quarterbacks. Randall Cunningham was basically like Lamar Jackson before Lamar Jackson. He could throw it 60 yards downfield on a dime, and then he could also run away from you. He was a lot to handle. He was a load. That Eagles team was fun to watch. Same way that like Warren Moon was for the Oilers. He could just sling it. But these guys have their own collector bases. They were fun to watch. They're about my age. And there's some really awesome cards out there for these guys. And I'm not talking about the 87 Topps rookie card for Cunningham. That's a cool card, don't get me wrong. But there's all sorts of, patch auto type stuff for Cunningham that's really neat. Those guys collect that. So again, if you're looking to buy to flip, it's like if you can get a good price on a card like that, a collector card where it's a player that has a collector base to it. And it doesn't have to be a Michael Jordan size collector base. Randall Cunningham doesn't have the same demand as Michael Jordan, but for Eagles fans, he's a legend. All of these items are standalone collectibles, and really price point dictates everything for this. One of the hobby takes that I hear that I can't stand, I am not a fan of it, is why would I buy into a player that's towards the end of their career or a retired player? What would make their cards go up? What is an event? If they're not playing, they can't further their legacy, then why would I care about buying into that particular card or that particular player? I think that's really a short-sighted view, and I do understand the fun of collecting a player that is playing, because you're watching them play, you've got the cards. But if your mindset is that their prices are going to be completely tied to their performance, it's just not right. It's not correct at all. And there's plenty of retired guys, even guys that have passed away like a Babe Ruth, that their cards continue to go up, their memorabilia continues to go up based on a million different factors. So just because a guy is coming towards the end of his career, or a girl at the end of their career, there are still a lot of opportunities there, and that's the sort of sandbox that I play in mostly. So just be careful out there, guys. When you're buying cards and you're looking at the price tag, think to yourself, how much of that price is speculation money built into that particular player? How much is spec money? Because there's a lot of spec money that's been flying around over the last 3 or 4 years in the sports card hobby. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.